Welcome to Exceptional and Unfiltered. We're Alicia, Melissa, and Teresa, three moms living the real, messy, beautiful life of raising kids with special needs. We're so glad you're here. One thing that I'm really thankful for is community. We know that it's not easy raising a child with special needs, and I haven't always felt like I have a community or that the community is there for me or that I have a village. And one of the reasons that we've started this podcast is because we want to help meet the needs of our community as a whole, but especially our families with special needs and raising
Right.
children in this tough journey that we're in. And in order to do that, we have to be able to reach people in a lot of different ways. And we're trying, all of us are very involved in our community, both with our day jobs and with the Special Needs Collaborative, our local organization that we're really working hard to make an inclusive community for our I was going to say students, for our kiddos, and adults with special needs. But community helps us to feel less alone. It helps us to feel like we have that teamwork and not so isolating. But we're all in this situation, and I call it, I guess, a situation, but we're all lifetime caregivers.
Yeah.
And that can feel really heavy, even
You have to
saying
take
it
a deep
now.
Yeah, I know. We both sat
There
down.
we've
when
heard
we
that.
heard that, yeah.
Lifetime caregivers. We all kind of just took a breath there.
Yeah.
But that can be a lot to
Yeah.
take in. And we talked in a previous episode about the stages of grief that we go through and how they're not really in order. We kind of cycle through some of those things. And even now, where all of our sons are currently in a similar boat, they're graduating high school, and we're looking at that next chapter and what life is going to look like for them after that. We're dealing with another type of grief and another stage right now of like taking that feeling of, okay, now we're going to lose the support of the school system. They're not going to
Scary.
be our teammate anymore. So now what are we going to do?
And so you're kind of left scrambling because you don't want your child to you want them to have a nice life and not sit at home all day.
Exactly.
And look at the walls or watch TV or be on a game.
You want their quality of life to
Exactly.
still be high.
Yeah, and still have stimulating activities to do, something to keep them. If they're not in a classroom, what will they do? How will they learn? How will they continue to grow?
And that's part of our caregiver role that we really didn't used to have. Like we have there's a lot of different layers with caregiving, but we had that daytime where we could trust somebody else to give them quality and to keep them engaged and learning, and we could go to work and we can do
Our lifeline.
Our
That was
lifeline.
our lifeline. For
So,
many years.
yeah,
Many
You're
years.
right. So we're kind of at this point of that transition, but just being a lifetime caregiver, that could be really heavy.
And I don't think it's something that we think about all the time, but when you do, it's like, wow. I think I've heard so many times, and it's also my worst fear is I don't even feel like I'm allowed to die.
Oh,
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
girl. We need to. What is that, like the well that you can drink out
I
of or
need
whatever
that.
and live forever? I'm like, where is that? Can we do that? Yeah.
Nobody's going to understand nobody loves you like your mama. Or and maybe it's not your mama, maybe it's your dad, your grandma, whoever, but that main person, that main caregiver, they know you inside and out. And I'm thinking, who's going to know him inside and out like this?
And nobody will. And so then that just brings on sadness.
Yeah.
Like nobody is going to care for them like we care for them.
Right.
And it's terrifying. It's such a heavy thing because no mother ever wants to, or father or anybody wants to bury your child. That's not natural.
No, no.
That's not natural, and that's your worst fear of anything is, oh my gosh, please don't let anything happen to my child.
Yeah.
But it sounds like, I know my fear, and it sounds like your fear, and maybe your fear is like, well, what happens if they outlive us?
Scary.
Yeah. Especially all these years, you do everything you can to help them live. Because without us, they need us to survive.
They do.
And then to think one day that shifts. And then as you age, you worry about, what if they do outlive me? It's kind of a reverse role.
And if you have a child that like has some physical things, and you have to be strong to kind of
Yes.
take care of them too, so I mean that's hard on your body.
Yes.
I'm in that worry right now, Teresa. Riker's having that major hip surgery this summer, and if I would have done this surgery when he was a little bit younger, or I didn't know about it, so it's not like I put it off, but
Right.
if then I could have carried him more, and I can still carry him, but it takes a
Yeah.
lot, you
Yeah.
know.
He's a
So
big boy.
Yeah.
how do you handle?
man.
He's
Yeah.
a man.
Yeah.
He's a man. Yeah. So how do you continue to meet these needs that you used to be able to meet with, I won't say ease, but
Yeah.
you could handle it, you can do it, to where your body is now starting to say, I'm struggling a bit, girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm struggling.
I have a bad back. We talk about, and I even think about you a lot. We've talked about our back issues and stuff.
Yeah.
And I know Zach, he's a big boy.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things, like one of Noah's medical issues was with his skull, to where he will always be small.
Yeah.
And so, and even me with having a bad back, I just don't know what I would do if he would have been bigger, because there's been times when my back has been so bad, I've literally crawled in the floor to take care of him and crawled from my room to his room.
Wow.
I don't know if you've had like the physical with your body that same way too. With
Well, Zach, he's pretty, ambulatory. He can get around pretty well, but there's definitely times when he was smaller and he was sick, and I know I had to have a surgery, and they said, don't pick up anything heavy. And I was like, what? That's my entire life.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's things like that you can't, it's not a baby anymore,
Yeah.
but you still have to, a lot of things are.
Yeah.
It feels like you're taking care of a baby
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm really thankful that Riker he's shorter than me, and that same thing with like Noah, that I'm very glad that they didn't get bigger, because how could we physically
Yeah.
manage some of these things?
Yeah. I couldn't have done it with Zachary.
Yeah.
How
But
tall is he?
I think he's 5'10", 5'11", something like that.
And you're
but it
how
seems
tall?
more, I'm 5'3".
Oh yeah, I would have thought 6 foot.
Yeah,
something
I would've
for
thought
sure.
6
He's,
foot too.
he might have been, it feels like he just keeps growing. I don't know. But it's funny, I have this picture of him in my head as like an 8-year-old. And so sometimes, he just kind of tags along, follows me along in the store, and I'll turn around and I'll be startled because there's a big man there.
Oh,
And
you're like, that's my kid.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, it's Zach. What am I doing? So, yeah, it's hard to get used to it, because in your mind, and then at the
Well,
same
it's always
time,
your
you
baby.
can
Yeah.
also see, I feel like our kids can, you had mentioned in an earlier episode that Riker was this age, but it was more like this age.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like sometimes Zach encompasses almost any age. Like Noah, he's an old man.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like he acts his age in certain ways, and then other times, he's
I
like
feel
playing
that
with
with
SpongeBob
Riker.
in the pool, and then sometimes
Yeah.
he's somewhere in the middle of that.
Have you heard like Riker's music choices? I mean, it's like Dolly Parton, Johnny Cash,
Oh, he's
Jelly
my
Roll,
guy.
and
I
then
love
he's
it.
switching
Taste.
over. Yeah, then he's listening to like the ABC song and Mother Goose Club.
Oh.
Yes, that's our experience
Yeah.
too. He loves a good song, like a good nursery rhymes, Itsy Bitsy Spider.
Absolutely.
And a little
Classics.
bit, all that
Yeah.
stuff. But he also likes some Uptown Funk.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love
he
it.
likes some Bruno Mars and.
Oh, I've seen Zach. He's got good dance skills too.
Oh,
I have
yeah.
seen him.
He gets a lick here and there. He does. He enjoys his music.
But it's funny though too how funny is the wrong word, but how our caregiver roles change, though, as the older that our kids get.
Yeah.
And so when they're younger, there's a lot of, as a caregiver, you're figuring things out. You're learning your kid. You're learning a disability, a diagnosis.
Yeah.
You're doing a lot of research, and maybe like the physical things are different then, and the programs that they're in are different.
Mm-hmm.
And then as they get older, their needs change, so
Yeah.
your role changes, and the way that you approach caregiving changes. Or like having kids. We talked about this too in a previous episode. Riker's the oldest of, I have 3 boys, so Liam's 12, Jake is 18. Phew, I don't even like saying that.
Yeah.
And Riker's 21, so he was the first. So then trying to be the caregiver for Riker with all of these needs, and then also being what Jake needs as his own individual and what Liam needs as his own individual.
Right.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
And right now, this year, Jake and Riker, just the way that, their education worked out, Jake and Riker both are graduating high school this year.
Mm-hmm.
And that looks completely
Yeah.
different what I'm doing to try to prepare for Riker for life after high school versus what I'm helping Jake. And honestly, a lot of it with Jake is like, hope you're doing good, bud.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, it's
Yeah.
like survival.
Yeah.
I can't be as involved as I would like to be. I can't be as involved with the groups at the high school and all the different things that they're doing for seniors because I'm doing all of these
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
for my other senior that needs more from me.
When I even seen you, I witnessed what you were doing at a football game before, like when Liam was out there.
Oh, yeah. Liam's
You were
playing
trying to
football.
cheer for him, but then you were also getting in your snack bag to make Riker comfortable and make him happy
You
so
do
that you could
juggle it
stay
well,
through the whole
though.
game.
Yeah.
Because you knew if Riker was not happy, you
Nobody's
would not have got
happy.
to stay and watch. So then you would have
Yeah.
missed out on an important moment for Liam because I think that might have been one of his first games or something.
It might have been.
And
Yeah.
it was huge for him.
Absolutely, and I want him to know that his mom's there and not have resentment towards his brother.
Yeah.
Which that has always been
That's
a
a
fear
lot
of
of
mine.
absolutely.
That you're
Yeah,
having to worry about.
absolutely, and so I try really hard to like Jake is watching them right now so that I can be here with you guys and recording, and I've tried to limit that because I'm so afraid that he's going to resent me or resent his brother. So it just makes me worried. Like we all have that mom guilt,
Yeah.
but then now you're throwing in another type of mom guilt. And I know that you struggled with that too,
Yeah.
Melissa, and your boys were incredibly helpful for you with Noah, and it's always
Yeah.
we're juggle.
I mean, and you have the guilt too because they did not choose to be caregivers either.
Right.
And we know we did not choose that kind of life. And
Right.
so we've also projected that onto them. Do you ever feel like that too with your boys?
Absolutely.
I do that. I was like, will they resent me? Like you said, will they resent their brother? Will they, I'm lucky that they kind of got into this when they were really young. Because I know some people have to take that role on as even when they're older, they're wanting to go, out with their friends, do things.
Right.
So that was a struggle at that age too, because did I pull them away from a lot of social things they wanted to do because where they had to help me and help their brother? I mean, it's hard because you do worry about that. You don't want them to resent you and even worse, resent their sibling.
Exactly. Yeah,
That's even
how
worse.
horrible would that feel to know that like you worked so hard all of these years to try to meet the needs of your child with special needs and then their siblings for then in the end they just have resentment.
Yeah. In reality, because
When
like
you work so hard
When
to
you
not
work so
make that
hard,
happen.
yeah.
and that is who you feel like you have that resentment too of what if something happens to me because who's going to take care of it? Is it going to be the sibling
And you don't
that
want
you've
that
trained
to
them?
be.
No,
you don't want that for them. I'm sorry, but I wouldn't wish being a special needs parent. I would not wish that on somebody. Like there's a lot of beauty that comes out of that, and I hope that doesn't come across wrong. There's so much beauty, and I'm so thankful that I'm Riker's mom and that I've learned so much. And I mean, we could talk. We could have a whole episode just on all the good that comes out of this.
Absolutely.
But it is so hard and so heavy, and I wouldn't wish that for anybody else to have to go through that. And I certainly don't want my kids to have to take on that burden
Right.
if we're not here.
Right.
I think about you, and I've mentioned this before, how hard that must be. And I don't know how you juggle it. Like, that's just that's another thing that
Another
you have
layer.
to worry about and feel guilt about. Again, there's blessings and all that comes from it. But I have a little bit of a different experience. Like, Zach's the only child other than step siblings, and they have a different mother. And so that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
And I just worry about who is going to take. Obviously, he has a dad, but we're the same age.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I mean, we both can't live forever, and I don't want him to be with strangers. And I do have a best friend, and she's fabulous. And I've been like, there you go,
Yeah.
you're getting a Zach if something happens to me. And she's like, I'm old too, but I said I don't have anybody
Just line up
else.
a bunch of old.
I need to find.
You gotta
a
get young
bunch of old
friends.
people.
You need to start hanging out with
Tell
young
me-
people.
Yeah,
Yes, I
yeah.
know.
You're gonna have to go down to like
I
the
know.
younger generation.
Where do I find these people? But and a lot of speaking of my friends, a lot of them are becoming grandparents now.
Yeah.
And I don't think I thought about this until this started happening, that I won't be a grandparent. So that kind of is like, I'll always be mom, and that's beautiful and wonderful, but I won't be a grandparent. So I'm like, man, I guess I'll just snuggle other people's grandbabies. But
That's heavy though,
That is-
Teresa.
yeah,
That's
that's hard.
that's another thing to
Yeah.
grieve.
Yeah.
You know, like that's another thing to grieve after all of the other things that we grieve. We grieve the life that we didn't have, or we grieve what our kids are not going to be able to do, and now you're grieving something that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, that's
and it's
tough.
not even something I ever even thought about. I think I guess I thought I'd be young forever, but
I know, right? We
then
all
you
kinda
see, you know, you get into this different life stage. You know, Zach's 20 and I'm 48. And you're like, oh, this transition. It's not just graduating. It's also them growing up, and you know, they won't have a wife or children or anything like that. So it kind of goes back to before we didn't have the community resources that we have now, and you just felt like, what do we want to do? And I feel like that's just another thing. And thank God for community, because it does fill some of the void.
It does, and I think that we've talked about that a little bit, like in the last couple of years. Like we're very involved in helping change our community and build resources and bring in resources and provide connection. And honestly, like thank God we did,
Yeah.
because
I think
mean, this is
it
a
came
lot.
in the nick of time.
It did.
Yeah.
It really did. And we also have years of not having that. So we have this compassion and an understanding for, like, not compassion, but appreciation for what this feels like now, because we've went without it for so long. And so many people that are in our community with younger children with special needs, like, so happy for them.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for them. Like, there all these things that our kids have now that they can do and engage in, and our village and our community. And I know, Melissa, you're bringing in to our area a lot of workshops to educate families and help them do things like writing a will.
Yeah.
Because
and
that's
that was
who
you
does
guys gave us.
I was
that
like, oh my
ideal.
gosh, I didn't even think about Melissa. Thank God she can do this, because
With your
we've been
background
trying to
in-
figure
in
this
law.
out. Like, what am I even doing? Like, how do I?
That's I feel like I say that all the time. What am I even doing?
What
Am I even employed here?
do I work here?
Do I work here?
When I think even in your situation, Teresa, like you said, we have kids, so we would hope that if something happened to us, they would get our affairs in order.
Right.
So for you, that's why
It's
those
only
documents are
even more.
important. But those documents are so important because you're gonna have to
our
choose
workshop
somebody
is
good.
like August, September. I was like, I
Yeah.
hope I don't die.
Yeah, and
I
so
gotta wait till the
we
end.
gotta
You
wait
even
till
said
then.
that, and I thought, wow, that's so sad. you
Yeah,
know,
and so
it's-
for those listening, wherever they're listening from, this workshop that we're talking about is a wills clinic. And so where we'll all be able to get together with people in our community, with Melissa and her organization and volunteer attorneys, to help us carve out that intentional time to sit down and have somebody help us get this done.
Get some guidance.
And it's so needed. So whether you're here living in our community or listening from wherever, another state, another area, that's something that maybe you could get going in your community and help the special needs families. But that's what we've been doing, is just figuring out by listening to our own needs as caregivers, as moms with special needs children. We're kind of like listening to what our needs are and listening to each other, and then saying, well, hey, we can we can
have
work
a
on
lot
that.
of commonalities that we need to take care of.
Yeah, and so just just talking to each other and having each other to say, well, this is a problem.
Yeah.
This is a need that we're seeing. Anybody have any ideas?
Yeah.
That's how this podcast started.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is just literally we sat down and we were all just talking and trying to determine, like, how can we help families, like, with just random things that we know that parents are, like, really your best resource.
They really
That's
are.
Yeah,
that's
they
how
Other moms.
other
Yeah,
moms
yeah.
are your best resource. And so, like, we were trying to figure out, how can we help other people in a way that we can disseminate that information and get that out there. And it was like podcast. So just with that community focus in mind is how things happen. So regardless of if you're living in our community or you're somewhere else, it starts with a conversation. And I don't think we've had any doors shut.
No, everybody's. I think people have been very receptive.
I'm blown away by our community,
And
honestly.
it's really growing almost faster than you can keep up with now.
Oh, absolutely.
We went from 0 to 100. The first time Scott Smith, when he came out with the Railbirds and we went to the first meeting, I cried the whole time because here we are 18 years old and this is the first thing.
And so that is the alternative baseball
Yes.
here in Mercer County.
Yes.
And that is an alternative baseball league for people with how does he call it?
Special abilities.
Special abilities. With special abilities to be able to participate, and he's done a lot of things in our area, and some areas have a lot of different programs and a lot of things going on. We didn't.
No, we didn't.
But it's starting to build, and I think another thing I'm thankful for is that nobody feels like they have territory over the special needs community. We certainly don't, and we don't as with the Special Needs Collaborative. We don't feel that way. It's like the more the merrier.
Yes.
The community is about linking
and
arms.
participate as you can.
Yeah,
Participate as you
That's
can.
what I like.
But it really is, community is about linking arms and saying, I'll help too.
Yeah.
I'll help in a big way, or I'll help in a small way.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful for that here. And
Yeah.
like, so if you look at community big, we can look at big things. We can look at like our state, and then we can look at our county, and then we can look at our groups, and then we can look right here.
Yeah.
Us three sitting in this room, and we are community for each other.
Yeah.
And just looking at when we're talking today about the role of the caregiver and how that can change, and I'm so thankful for you guys that we can talk about these things and you get it, because it's hard to sit down with somebody and say, well, these are the stressors and this is the mental load that I have on me right now, and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry that you're dealing with that. I don't know how you do it, but with you guys, we're like, me too, girl.
Yeah.
And I
so it
think the
feels
way
better.
that we talk about things, I tend to cope with humor, and I will just like say something really dark, and then I'll start laughing about something else.
Yep.
And I think that we become desensitized to
Mhm.
the weight of it,
I think that's a really good way to put that.
because we had kind of watched back a previous episode, and we're like, we just say things like it's nothing.
Yeah.
And we just move on. But I think that's
Your
the way
brain
we've
has been
living
trained-
our
yeah.
lives.
Yeah.
Think
And
about like your morning routine.
Yeah.
Just going to work.
Yeah.
And how many steps are in your routine, or what all do you go through before you even leave for work? And so it's hard too when you're
I've added shaving faces.
Yeah.
to
oh
that
my
list.
gosh, I
You're
say
exhausted by the
Yeah.
time you get to work.
Yeah.
You get to work at 8 o'clock, you're already tired.
you're exactly right, and it's not really comparable to somebody
Mhm.
else, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, nobody likes getting up in the morning and getting out the door, so it's already like,
Yeah.
you know. But then when you're doing all of these things or even having like a medical
Yeah.
issue in the morning, I can't tell you how many times
yeah.
Riker has had a seizure in the morning, and then we finish getting ready and I go to work,
Yeah.
and that's just Tuesday.
Yeah.
I saw the sweetest little girl at and that's a lot, Alicia. You
Oh,
said
yeah.
that very,
But I'm
but that's a lot.
desensitized.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm
we're
desensitized. Like, yep, that was just
and then
Tuesday.
I just went to work. You
Yeah.
know, but that's exactly what we're talking about. I saw a little girl at the special needs prom. That's another wonderful thing that our community has now through the Tim Tebow Foundation.
That's all over the
This
place too.
wonderful-
That's national.
Yes, like
Yeah.
oh yeah, it's even in other countries. I
Yeah.
saw.
Yeah.
That's incredible, and I used to pray that we'd get that there, because one of my things was like I was afraid he wouldn't get to do prom,
Aw.
Yeah.
and because it was just the milestones.
Yeah.
We already aren't getting a driver's license, but we got prom. We're gonna have sports to play in and stuff, and so thank God for that.
Absolutely.
But what I was gonna say is this little girl, and I think the kids get that way too. And I say kids, and I know a lot of them are adults, but this lady, she had a seizure at the prom, and the medical team carried her out, and they treated her, and she came back in like rocking and rolling,
Yeah.
and I'm like, they're tough as nails.
Tough.
Yes.
Somebody
I loved
else's
her.
like worst day ever. Truly, like somebody else's worst day ever. This happened, and they're terrified, and they're scared. Is like just a normal
Yeah.
day to us.
Yeah.
Our threshold as caregivers is high. It's high.
I'm always like, I'm fine, it's fine, everything's fine. I
Yeah.
don't need anything.
And most of the time, I mean that.
Well, I've literally refused medical treatment before when I went to the doctor to get checked out for one problem, but had something else, and they were like, "You need to stay," and I'm like, "No, I have to
do
get
that.
home."
I've got things
Because
to
you
do.
have to, like, so I've had to sign waivers before and go on home, because
Wow.
you have to think, okay, I have to get home because who's going to be there?
Right.
Anybody got time for that?
Yeah. So you
Anybody
can't.
got
So
time.
you got to let your care go to the side.
You
I mean,
do?
you have
Yeah.
to. You
Oh my
know.
goodness. And you will at some point look in the mirror and think, oh my God. First of all, I got old. And second of all, like, I don't even know.
I need to make a few appointments.
I need to, I need to get into my beauty care routine because something ain't right here.
Need to add a few steps.
I just know, like, you don't slow down
Yeah.
to take, notice of yourself very much. Zachary has gotten a little more independent. Obviously, he's, we don't have awareness of safety and, like, things like that, so I have to stay with him all the time, but it's a lot of things it is, and so it's allowed me to slow down some.
Right.
Because remember, I told you he was a wild man before, but and he's not really wild. He's more chill than he ever was.
He's so chill.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He is so chill.
Let go and let God.
Let go and let God. Yep.
But,
Best bowler ever.
Yes. But that's helped me to kind of be like, reflect a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the grandmother thing came in. I didn't slow down enough to think about that
Yeah.
before. And maybe the
We don't
reflection
ever
made me think it
reflect.
too.
Yeah.
We really don't ever reflect, and really that this podcast is helping us do that too.
Yeah.
I think just kind of
Fair.
we're talking about things that we've known each other for quite a while and we've never talked
We never
about.
talked about this.
So who has time?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of mental load that we all carry as caregivers, and a lot of things that there's never a day that goes by that I don't do something for him beyond even like that physical caretaking. There's an appointment or there's a therapy to schedule or something happens every single day. We could probably have multiple episodes just on caregiving, but I'm very thankful that we have this community and that we have each other.
Me too.
And hopefully the people that are listening, if you have a suggestion or anything of how we can help other caregivers in our area, or in general, any tips, tricks, whatever, we want to hear them.
Yes, please.
We need them.
We need them. We don't have all the answers.
We implore you.
Yeah, we would absolutely love to hear from you. Okay. And that's today's conversation.
If you feel seen, understood, or just a little less alone, share this podcast with someone who needs it too.
No judgment, no perfect answers, no pretending. Just real talk.
We said what we said, and we'll keep talking.